Part 22. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 211. What? Can junior brother Xianchen still be able to choose weapons similar to those of heaven level at will? Junior brother, although we have not met each other for a long time, I deeply apologize for my previous attitude. If junior brother is willing to forgive senior brother is willing to share his sister-in-law with you. Facing Lin Fengji's verbal reply, Xianchen only felt numb all over his body. For someone who can give away his girlfriend casually as compensation, I'm afraid he has already lost a large part of his character. As for the other people, they all noticed the maids and servants who were cleaning up the house. But when I noticed that the strength of those servants were actually people with the strength of a fighting king, I was so shocked that my whole jaw almost dropped. After all, for everyone in the upper world, although there are many people like strong men, it is still very difficult to understand that there are so many people working for a disciple. But within a few seconds, an idea immediately appeared in the minds of those disciples, that is, the family that Xianchen came from was definitely not just as simple as the information on the identity registration. Lin Fengji saw Xianchen looking at him with a speechless expression, as if he was aware of his gaffe. He coughed a few times awkwardly before continuing to explain, "Ahem, junior brother, don't be nervous. Brother Wei is out of control, but brother Wei still hopes. Junior brother can sell me a good weapon. Although I encountered some good weapons at the auction, those weapons are still too difficult for a sword cultivator like me to control." Lin Fengji said, taking out his sword. Looking at this sword with the top grade of the earth level, the eyes of the followers behind him lit up. Looking at the sword he took out, Xianchen hesitated for a moment, frowning slightly, and then he held it in the air, and then a long sword with two handles in a sheath suddenly appeared in the eyes of Lin Fengji and others. Lin Fengji looked at the sword that suddenly appeared. His eyes were shining. He couldn't help but want to reach out for it, but Xianchen immediately took it back behind him. Looking at Lin Fengji, who looked embarrassed, Xianchen smiled faintly and said, "This sword is called the Sun and Moon Double Sword. As the name suggests, since it is the sun and the moon, then naturally there are two swords." Buzz. Holding the hilt of the sword and pulling it out, Lin Fengji couldn't help but sigh as he saw the two sharp swords emitting different lights. It turns out to be a high-grade heavenly sword. I didn't expect that junior brother Xianchen would have so many treasures. Sigh, I'm really nothing, so I shouldn't be able to find trouble in front of me. Lin Fengji naturally recognized the grade of the Sun and Moon Double Sword. Now he was at a loss. After all, he did not give Xianchen any good looks at the auction house. Now that he has come to need others, it is already a very big concession for Lin Fengji to put down his dignity. Haha, since we are all brothers in the same sect, this sword will be regarded as a meeting gift for you. After Xianchen finished speaking, he returned the sword to its sheath and gave the sword with a high grade to the heavenly level to the other party without hesitation. The eyes of the disciples who followed Lin Fengji were almost red at this moment, but because Lin Fengji was their eldest brother after all, no matter how much envy they had in their hearts, they could only hide it silently in their hearts. That's so embarrassing. Although Lin Fengji said this, he still took the sword given to him by Xianchen. He couldn't put it down with a look of satisfaction on his face, but a disciple beside him said abruptly, "Senior brother Fengji, aren't you good at single sword? Although the grade of this sword is indeed quite good, but if it is not held with both hands, will it have a great impact on the power of the sword?" Lin Fengji listened to the disciple's explanation with all his attention. Not to mention, the disciple's reminder really made Lin Fengji take it into his heart. After all, not everyone can use a weapon like a sword easily. In addition to the necessary talent, this kind of sword also requires hard work and practice. Junior brother Zui Feng is right. I wonder, junior brother Xianchen, are there any other weapons to choose from? Lin Fengji asked awkwardly, but Xianchen didn't take it seriously. He took out another weapon and handed it to him, and said lightly, "This sword is called Chunjun. I won't introduce it to you. Do you like it yourself?" After Xian Chen finished speaking, he handed the sword named Chunjun to Lin Fengzhi. The moment I looked at this sword, I was deeply attracted by the carvings on the sword's hilt, which were shining like stars and shining with deep light. "What a sword! What a sword!" Lin Fengzhi handed the sun and moon double sword back to Xian Chen, then held the pure June sword and looked at it lovingly. Seeing that the sword blade seemed to be able to split a 1,000-foot-high mountain, Lin Fengzhi, as a senior fellow apprentice, immediately knelt down on one knee and knelt on the ground. As the saying goes, swords are given to heroes. Although Lin Fengzhi can't be said to be a hero, let alone a gentleman, but as the saying goes, if he doesn't win over some of his connections for a new arrival, it will undoubtedly be a big trouble for Xian Chen. There was Mr. Wu in front of him and Lin Fengzhi in the back. I have to say that it is really easy to get things done where there are acquaintances. Looking at Lin Fengzhi, who couldn't put it down, Xian Chen coughed lightly, then raised his eyebrows and said seriously to the other party, "On weekdays, who would make things difficult for senior sister Yaokai? Is it difficult for Yaokai?" Those people seemed to be looking at fools, and presumably, Yaokai himself was very good in cultivation, plus he was young and beautiful, and had a very deep sect background. Unless Yaokai himself was looking for trouble, otherwise, looking at the entire star sect, I'm afraid there are really not many people who dare to cause trouble for her. It doesn't necessarily mean there isn't one. If you really want to ask, then there really is such a thing. Lin Fengzhi put away the sword, touched his chin, and looked up at the sky. "Who? Xiang Yu?" Xian Chen let out a breath. He did have some conflicts with the Xiang family, but if this person was called Xiang Yu, he heard it clearly during the auction. After all, Xiang Yu has already made a clean break with the Xiang family. If he rushes to find trouble with the other party without any reason, it will be a huge headache. Seeing Xian Chen's expression, Lin Fengzhi smiled and said, "Junior brother Xian Chen is thinking that he can't take action against Xiang Yu without a suitable reason." "Well, does senior brother have any ideas?" Xian Chen asked Lin Fengzhi, but Lin Fengzhi waved his hand, looked at Xian Chen and replied seriously, "You have given me such a big gift, so you should call me Fengzhi, so that others it seems like we have a good relationship, right?" He. Xian Chen smiled awkwardly and did not reply to the other party. Lin Fengzhi scratched his head, then looked around, and after confirming that they were all his own, he said seriously, "The reason why Xiang Yu broke up with the Xiang family in the first place was because of the engagement between junior sister Yaokai and Xiang Mu. This." Xian Chen never expected that a beautiful woman like Yaokai would be attracted by the two Xiang Mansion brothers at the same time. It's just a pity that Xiang Yu's background is not as noble as Xiang Mu, otherwise, it would definitely be him, Xiang Yu, who has a marriage contract with his junior sister. Looking at Lin Fengzhi, who looked sad, Xian Chen really wanted to complain, but seeing the other party's appearance, he could only smile slightly to show his courtesy. Dear readers, thank you for your support all the way unknowingly. This book has 500,000 words. Thank you all. There are currently only 20 people who have read it. This means that the author's monthly income is equivalent to 2 books in a row, not even $100, but the author will persevere. Thank you for your support. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 212. As soon as Lin Fengzhi finished speaking, Xian Chen already knew that Xiang Yu was able to leave the Xiang family and willingly leave the Xiang family, and it was definitely not just because he liked Fairy Yaokai. "Where is Xiang Yu? Can brother Lin take me there to visit?" Xian Chen raised his brows and asked Lin Fengzhi. Although it is true to say that Xiang Yu likes Fairy Yaokai, if it is Xian Chen's love rival, then this Xiang Yu may be really not qualified. Lin Fengzhi received such a huge benefit from Xian Chen, so he was naturally willing to lead the way for Xian Chen. Those who followed the disciples were all happy. Although they did not get any benefits from Xian Chen, for guys like them who like to be a loser, since they can work with Xian Chen, the benefits in the future will naturally be great. Accompanied by Lin Fengjie, after an unknown amount of time, the group came to a relatively remote area. The place was deliberately planted with flowers and plants, exuding the sweet fragrance of flowers like a sea of flowers. Xian Chen glanced at the sea of flowers and noticed the back of a young man leaning on the grass, and then asked Lin Fengjie beside him, "Is that the man wearing the straw hat Xiang Yu?" "Yes, he is Xiang Yu. This place can be said to be the territory assigned to him by the section. But for a junior brother with his status, I think it won't be long before he will have his own territory in the star section. Besides, isn't the place where junior brother Xian Chen lives the territory of junior sister Yaokai? Don't you know?" Facing Lin Fengjie's suspicious inquiry, Xian Chen frowned deeply. He laughed awkwardly, clapped his hands, and shouted towards the back, "Is that person in front of you Xiang Yu of the Xiang family?" The man's body trembled slightly, but he did not turn around. Those losers looked at Xiang Yu and dared to ignore them. One of the losers immediately ran to Xiang Yu's side, but when he noticed the murderous intent in Xiang Yu's eyes, he shrank his neck in fear. Something happened. Xiang Yu's cold voice reached Guo Zizi's ears. Guo Zizi, who swallowed a mouthful of foam, hesitated for a moment and then looked at the people waiting not far away. This bitch immediately secretly thought to himself, then sneered and said coldly, "Our senior brothers Lin Fengjie and Xian Chen want to see you. I wonder if you are willing to give me a favor." Although this loser has stayed in Xian Chen sect longer than Xian Chen, but according to the concept of respecting the strong, it is not an exaggeration for him to call Xian Chen master. "Lin Fengjie? Xian Chen?" Xiang Yu gently exhaled a breath of turbid air, and slowly turned his head to look behind him with turbid eyes. When he saw the unfamiliar face, Xiang Yu patted the non-existent dust on his body and stood up slowly. "Are you Xian Chen?" This contemptuous tone made the fellow bastards feel surprised. Although Xian Chen is definitely not as famous as Xiang Yu at the moment, if he deliberately seeks trouble for someone, these scoundrels will naturally have very extraordinary eyesight. "What's your attitude when you talk?" Lin Fengjie looked at Xiang Yu with a disgusted look on his face. As the saying goes, rivals in love are extremely jealous when they meet. He was able to willingly accept Xian Chen to follow Fairy Yaokai simply because Fairy Yaokai and Xian Chen had a good relationship. As for Xiang Yu, he often looks up but never looks down, so it is quite understandable that he will naturally have some small grievances in private. Xiang Yu did not look directly at Lin Fengjie, but continued to look at Xian Chen. He hesitated for a moment, with a strange look on his face. "I heard from those informants, that the Xiang Mu you killed was a member of the Xiang family." Although Xiang Yu's questions were full of vulgarity, it did not affect Xian Chen's ability to understand what he was saying. It's just that the people around him don't think so. If Xiang Mu can sign a marriage contract with Fairy Yaokai, he must have extraordinary abilities, not to mention that the people in the Xiang family are strong men. Although he is not as elite as the elders in the Star sect, when it comes to things like combat, it is definitely not something that some forces can easily compare to. But it is this kind of existence that was killed by Xian Chen, who was no more than a mere dozun. This is probably the most terrifying thing. It's me, but I think, even if I don't do it, I'm afraid you will take action yourself if you find the right opportunity. No wonder Xiang Yu can have his own place in the star section. In addition to being a terrifying being with the strength of the 7 stars of the fighting saint, he also has extraordinary eyesight. Haha, you don't have to say that, I have no interest in those guys. Xiang Yu said something mockingly to himself, then held the wine bottle and drank to himself. Whether you are interested or not is not up to you. The corner of Suankin's mouth raised a dangerous arc. Xiang Yu, who was frowning, took a deep look at Xian Chen, then threw the wine bottle aside and asked Xian Chen seriously. What can you do? Xiang Yu chuckled sinisterly, shocking those losers to the point of dripping with cold sweat. After all, the disciples in the Xin Chen sect are also divided into 3, 6, or 9 levels. Perhaps the appearance of these inner sects in the upper world will attract a lot of people's attention, but if you really want to respect them, you still have to look at the importance that disciple can bear in the star sect. Are you planning to attack the Xiang family? Can you please stop making trouble? The Xiang family is definitely not something that you two can easily defeat. Lin Fengzhi's face turned dark. He was indeed telling the truth. The Xiang family might not be worth mentioning in front of the Xin Chen sect, but if it was only in the eyes of a few disciples, it must still have absolute strength. However, Xiang Yu doesn't think so. If he can kill so many people with the strength of a fighting saint by himself, even if it is impossible for him to achieve it, then he will definitely be followed by very terrifying strong men. Such people are often called protectors. What? Don't Brother Lin plan to go together? Xian Chen asked Lin Fengzhi cheerfully. He was not afraid that Lin Fengzhi would not participate, but he was afraid that Lin Fengzhi would do something unexpected. What are you talking about? Isn't it just a trip? I will risk my life to accompany the gentleman. Lin Fengzhi scratched his head and immediately replied decisively. After all, he had taken Suankin's things. If he refused at this time, it would be serious. It is not something that humans can do. What about you? Are you going? Lin Fengzhi was not enough to get into the water alone, so he didn't forget to ask the followers behind him. Although they are followers, their strength is between 2 and 4 stars of Dosheng. So if these guys can really go, then naturally they can increase their combat power a lot. What did you say, senior brother? You've already gone. Can we, the younger brothers, not go? Senior brother, if you say such things again, we will really get into trouble with you. These disciples didn't know whether they were speaking from the bottom of their hearts or against their will, but seeing how readily they agreed, Lin Fengzhi, as the eldest brother, still felt very proud. Xiang Yu ignored these clowns and looked at Xian Chen, who only had the strength of Dozun. He pondered for a moment and then said seriously, if you can help me destroy the entire Xiang family, then I, Xiang Yu, will immediately choose to quit pursuing junior sister Yaokai. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 213. Just what you said, no matter if this family is a dragon or a tiger, it must lie down for me. The smile on Xian Chen's lips was particularly arrogant. Xian Chen was excited from the bottom of his heart that Xiang Yu was willing to quit pursuing Yaokai. But despite this, it does not mean that Xian Chen is afraid of Xiang Yu, but because there is one less suitor, and Xian Chen will naturally have less trouble. Lin Fengzhi and others watched the conversation between the two of them and listened to what Xian Chen and Xiang Yu meant. It was obvious that the fight against the Xiang family was a done deal. It's just that some joys naturally lead to worries. It's inevitable that some people will feel uncomfortable if they really want to attack the Xiang family. It is true that they are disciples of the Star sect, but there is one article in the sect's rules that is written very clearly. No Star sect disciple is allowed to violate the sect's rules without authorization and challenge other forces. This is a war between two parties. If they win, they may be completely proud in the Star sect in the future. But if they lose, not to mention whether the people of the Star sect are willing to come forward to resolve the issue, then those of them who participated will definitely must be punished. Xiang Yu took out a map of the internal structure of the Xiang mansion from his storage ring and gestured at every corner of the map. Everywhere he pointed was definitely one that was extremely weakly guarded. Lin Fengzhi looked at the map. I just feel dizzy. After all, if we really want to attack Xiang Mansion, that's definitely not an easy thing to do. After all, if one thing goes wrong, all of them might end up there. Look at this map the whole time. With his brows furrowed, he hesitated for a moment and spoke seriously to Xiang Yu. Since you are from the Prime Minister's mansion, I naturally believe that this map is true, but there are some things I still want to say. We alone are often not enough. If we don't have a complete assurance, I feel it would be inappropriate to attack rashly. Xian Chen's words were just heard. Lin Fengzhi on the side quickly answered, I think what junior brother Xian Chen said is true. If we are the only ones who really go to attack Xiang Mansion, perhaps it will really end up with no return. Xiang Yu frowned. The two of them looked at each other in silence. After hesitating for a moment, he said seriously, if you are afraid, you don't have to go. I, Xiang Yu, never impose anything on others, but if that happens, your status in my heart may be greatly reduced. If nothing happens, please come back. Xiang Yu said this, which was equivalent to issuing an order to expel guests. If Xian Chen and the others continue to stay here, then it is nothing more than looking for guilt. For Xiang Yu, there are no permanent friends, only eternal interests. Xian Chen was speechless listening to Xiang Yu's reply. After all, to him, the people in the Xiang Mansion were already overbearing. It was only a matter of time before Xiang Mansion was destroyed. If you don't eliminate it now and wait until later, it will definitely be too late. Then when are you going to set off? We should be ready. If you haven't thought about it yet, you can't blame us. Xian Chen replied seriously, looking at Xiang Yu seriously, also wanting to see how much Xiang Yu hated the so-called Xiang Mansion. Xiang Yu let out a breath of air and said as if relieved, I have completely seen through it all. Those guys, just because of my humble status, gave up all kinds of good resources to that bastard Xiang Mu. To be honest, when I heard that that boy Xiang Mu was dead, I was very happy, you know? After all, I wanted to beat that boy for more than a day or two. If it hadn't been for that kid's engagement with Yao Kai, I wouldn't have ended up with a family and couldn't return. Xiang Yu spoke out all the complaints in his heart. For him, what he said was not unreasonable, but the only pity was that his identity had already completely established his position. It's useless for you to say this. You had a chance. You chose all these things yourself. You can't always live in the past. Xian Chen said to Xiang Yu seriously. After listening to Xian Chen's words, those people all gave a thumbs up. I didn't expect that junior brother Xian Chen is not only handsome and has a good background, but he also speaks the truth very clearly. Lin Fengzhi had a flattering look on his face, but it did not affect Xian Chen's impression of him at all. Xiang Yu fell into deep silence as he listened to every word Xian Chen said. He was not a fool, so he could naturally understand the meaning of Xian Chen's words. But now the deal was done, and the only way to prove him thoroughly was to attack Xiang Yu. Home is the only way out. I, Xiang Yu, have never caused trouble, but that does not mean I am afraid of trouble. If brother Xian Chen is willing to help me, I, Xiang Yu, are willing to treat you as a confidant. Xiang Yu said this mindlessly, with almost no gold content. When Lin Fengzhi saw that the always grumpy Xiang Yu actually asked for help, he immediately said seriously to Xian Chen, junior brother, although Xiang Yu usually has a grumpy personality, he must have reached a level that is difficult for many people to have this kind of consciousness. Hide, it's better to attack Xiang Mansion, as Xiang Yu said. Is senior brother Lin not afraid anymore? You must know that those in the Xiang family are definitely not soft persimmons who can be manipulated by others. Xian Chen poured cold water on Lin Fengzhi, although the atmosphere was a bit awkward. But it did not affect Lin Fengzhi's thoughts. After thinking carefully, he said seriously to the losers behind him, go and inform those guys who want to follow me that there is something urgent and they need to go to Nanyimen. If you want to follow me, Lin Fengzhi, if so, it depends on their performance this time. Those losers looked at each other, but when Lin Fengzhi's face turned extremely pale, they left in a hurry and followed Lin Fengji's wishes to recruit the improvised team. Not long after, Xian Chen and others were waiting silently at the south gate. Although the south gate was also guarded by disciples, perhaps because of the sudden appearance of influential figures in the sect such as Lin Fengji and Xiang Yu, they did not show any signs of it. It means to block it. It was just that when the disciples walked out of the south gate one by one, the gatekeepers who were responsible for guarding the south gate were truly dumbfounded. Looking at the team of about 100 people, Xiang Yu could not help but tremble in the corners of his eyes. These people can be said to be all fighting saints. Even the worst one has a 2-star level. Looking at these young fighting saints, Xian Chen only felt a little bit dumbfounded. The interface similar to Do Chi continent is called the lower realm. The reason why there are very few existences at the level of Do Sheng is entirely because of resource issues that simply cannot be supplied. But it's different in the upper realm. Not only are there many powerful people, but even the place where they practice is similar to the holy land of fortune and fortune. Naturally, many of the disciples who were called over urgently felt confused. After all, these people all had the same purpose, which was to follow Lin Fengji and become Lin Fengji's lackeys. A smile appeared on Lin Fengji's lips, as if he felt extremely comfortable looking at these disciples who were called over. Ahem, everyone, the reason why I called you here is that I need your help with something. But if you want to leave now, then please leave. After all, if you want to be my Lin Fengji, you must be wise and brave. Lin Fengji spoke seriously, making those disciples feel confused. Looking at these confused disciples, Xiang Yu couldn't stand it anymore, and immediately said to those disciples with a solemn expression, "Fellow disciples, to be honest, it is entirely my intention to call you together this time. Everyone can come here just to give Xiang Yu face, in this way, I don't intend to deceive you. Actually, I'm calling you here this time because I'm planning to attack Xiang Mansion." Hiss. As soon as Xiang Yu finished speaking, the originally noisy crowd suddenly fell into an incredible suffocation sound. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 214. Are you kidding me? People from the Xiang family actually want to attack the Xiang family. To be honest, I can't believe it. Although the Xiang family is not very good in daily life, it is really hard to understand that someone with the same surname as Xiang would think of attacking my own family. Isn't Xiang Yu completely cut off from the Xiang family? In this case, there is no reason to attack the Xiang family. The Xiang family has been able to maintain its stability in this palace for so many years, and its strength is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. The disciples were talking a lot, and some even looked at Xiang Yu with complicated eyes. Regarding the discussions of these people, Xiang Yu behaved very calmly. After all, for these disciples, whether to participate or not is one thing, but whether they can attack is another. Sure enough, after hearing Xiang Yu's words, there are really a few people who want to leave voluntarily. But after seeing that most people didn't leave, I had no choice but to stay. Lin Fengji's face changed slightly, so he waved his hand to break open a space. As the suction force of the space crack appeared, he immediately looked at everyone and said seriously, "A man, you can't leave any regrets in your life. If any of you want to leave, you can leave. I, Lin Fengji, will never stop you." With that said, Lin Fengji walked towards the crack in space. Those disciples who had followed Lin Fengji earlier naturally did not have so many thoughts, and followed him one after another and walked into the space crack. Xian Chen looked at everyone with a calm expression, looked at Xiang Yu, and followed closely behind. "If you want to leave, I will never stop you." After Xiang Yu said that, he walked into the space crack without a trace of hesitation. Those disciples looked at this space crack with confused faces. This was no longer as simple as playing house. If a decision was not made well, someone would definitely die. I, Lu Neng, have been a coward all my life, and today I suddenly feel like I am a human being. Brothers and sisters, Lu Neng, take the first step. Call out. Lu Neng rushed in directly, and the disciples looked at each other in confusion. Someone roared, and then he saw disciples walking in one by one. However, just as these disciples walked into the space cracks one after another, the people who went out first encountered an unimaginable situation. Kill these guys. What? Lin Fengjia and others were caught off guard, and the followers around him fell down one after another. When looking at the thousands of fighting saints who suddenly appeared, Lin Fengjia only felt a little numb. He instantly grasped the sword given to him by Xian Chen, and after stabbing him with the sword, he roared loudly at the only remaining follower, "Damn it! I fell into that Xiangyu's trick. I knew that boy Xiangyu was definitely not as kind-hearted as he appeared." Lin Fengjia roared angrily, gritting his teeth as he watched 7 or 8 fighting saints who were higher than his own strength pressing against him, wishing he could fight Xiangyu right in front. "What's going on?" Xian Chen, who walked out of the space crack, was shocked when he saw the scene in front of him. However, just as he finished speaking, he felt an extremely cool feeling suddenly attack from behind. "No," Xian Chen turned around hurriedly, and the sword suddenly appeared in his hand, blocking Xiangyu's sneak attack almost instantly. Xiangyu's face changed slightly, and his face returned to an ashen expression in an instant. The heavy and powerful sword in Xiangyu's hand was like a human sword merging into one. Every time a heavy blow came down, it would shock Xian Chen and keep retreating. "Xiangyu, what are you doing this for? Didn't you say that you and the Xiang family have been cut off for a long time? Why are you attacking me at this time? Are you a traitor to the Star Sect? Are you worthy of us?" Xian Chen's face was ferocious, and he wanted to kill this guy who betrayed him with 1,000 knives. I have to say that Xiangyu's acting skills are indeed good, otherwise Xian Chen and others would not be in this passive situation. Xiangyu looked up to the sky and laughed. Looking at Xian Chen who was questioning him, Xiangyu licked the blade of the blade and said to Xian Chen with an arrogant look, "Shut up. What qualifications do you have to say that to me? But I still want to thank you. If you hadn't killed Xiangmu, Xiangyu, would never have had the chance to become the future heir of the Xiang family." What's the situation? The disciples of the Star Sect who gradually appeared were all dumbfounded. This situation was probably something they had never even dreamed of. Some disciples looked extremely ugly. Seeing that the unfamiliar young man was already fighting with Xiangyu, some disciples who didn't react immediately began to complain maliciously. "Is it that strange disciple? By the way, who is that disciple? Why did he seem to have a good relationship with Xiangyu, Lin Fengjia, and the others from the beginning? That person seems to be Xian Chen. I heard that he came back with senior sister Yaokai, and he is also an inner disciple." An inner disciple at the Dozun level? Even a 2-star Do sage like me is not qualified to be an inner disciple. Kill. When these disciples looked like they were watching a show, the Xiang family members who had been lying in wait for a long time naturally would not miss such a good opportunity. They took out their weapons and rushed towards the disciples who were watching the show. Some disciples who did not react in time were successfully injured. These disciples who looked shocked had never seen such a situation before. A battle of thousands of people, with a ratio of 1,000 to 100, was definitely a very suffocating operation. Damn it, with this ratio, we are just looking for death when we come here. Who says it's not the case? This is the first time in my life that I have been surrounded by hundreds of fighting saints. Speechless, I feel like I was betrayed. With the wailing sounds and the continuous additions of those Xiang family members, it was obvious that the Xing Chen sect disciples had already decided on Lu Feng from the beginning. Xiangyu repeatedly failed to hit Xian Chen. He became so angry that he raised his hand and slapped himself hard. Looking at this scene, Xian Chen felt a little dumbfounded. After all, Only truly stupid people would think of treating themselves like this. Boy. Yaokai belongs to me. After I take over the Xiang mansion, your boy is just a piece of shit in my eyes, Xiang Yu, you know. Did you see them? These people. Xiang Yu, came here to steal Yaokai from me. That's your fault. Xiang Yu roared loudly, like a mentally retarded person. Seeing those Xing Chen sect disciples falling continuously, Xian Chen held the sword in his hand and raised it above his head. With the dazzling light that the sword continued to gather, Xiang Yu immediately struck down Xiang Yu, who was swooping down. Looking at this extremely dazzling light, when Xiang Yu covered his eyes for a moment, he felt extremely hot flames, as if burning his soul. This kind of burning that comes from the depths of the soul, no matter how talented Xiang Yu is or how strong his cultivation is, he will see the sword in Xiang Yu's hand fall to the ground within a short time. As for Xiang Yu, his eyes gradually became dim, as if they had lost their luster. Looking at the crowd, Xian Chen immediately summoned thousands of swords and then rose into the sky. Everyone was frightened looking at the densely packed sword blades. Good boy, I knew you must be pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, Lin Fengji complained harshly to Xian Chen, and after knocking down a Do sage from the Xiang family, he immediately erupted a Do Qi energy barrier, covering his whole body. It's wrapped inside. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 215. Boom boom boom. The extremely powerful sword energy dispersed in all directions with Xian Chen as the center. Looking at these extremely terrifying sword movements, those fighting saints from the Xiang family truly felt an unprecedented sense of suffocation. After all, this situation happened too suddenly. Even if people knew it for a second in advance, there would at least be a chance to resist or temporarily open up space to escape. However, under this sword formation that was comparable to pear blossoms in a rainstorm, what was waiting for these fighting saints was only death. Seeing those fighting saints explode into blood mist and merge with the air, the disciples from the Star sect looked at Xian Chen, and their initial suspicion turned into admiration. Although Xian Chen's cultivation level may be the lowest in this battle, his strength can be said with great pride that he is definitely a well-known character. Some of the Xiang family members who had not yet been affected tried to open space cracks to escape. However, under this judgment that was destined to death, the outcome of these fighting saints was also written from the beginning of the war. This boy will definitely be someone who can influence the entire heavenly palace when he grows up. Xiang Yu. Didn't you say that this guy's strength is not that good? Now he has dragged 1,000 of us to be buried with him. You are really doing harm to others. That's right, Xiang Yu. Just forget about your bad luck. You didn't forget to trap and kill us seniors. Your kid's heart is really dark. Those people did not forget to complain about Xiang Yu before they died. But it was a pity that Xiang Yu had already died suddenly on the spot after the battle with Xian Chen. Sharp sword shadows rushed down one after another. Even if those fighting saints tried their best to resist, but in this foregone conclusion, no matter how hard they tried, it was in vain. Stop! Are you really bullying my Xiang family? At this moment, an extremely angry voice came from the distance instantly, and under this roar, the sword shadow cast by Xian Chen also shattered inch by inch. Xian Chen, whose brows were furrowed, stared straight at the approaching figures with lightning-like eyes, and immediately summoned another giant golden cauldron. The moment the giant golden cauldron appeared, the invisible pressure disappeared without a trace. But at this moment, there were several five-clawed golden dragons surrounding the giant golden cauldron. This magic weapon that should not belong to this world was summoned by Xian Chen. It has to be said that these guys offended Xian Chen and really deserved a short life. The angry voice sounded like thunder in the ears, and some of the two-star Do Sheng disciples who could not resist were shocked and turned into a ball of blood mist and disappeared. Xian Chen breathed out a sigh of relief, and with a serious look on his face, he looked at the figure silently. It was not until the figure gradually approached that Xian Chen realized that the other person turned out to be a burly middle-aged man who looked very similar to Xiang Mu. The whole body of this middle-aged man exudes a terrifying breath of thunder. It can be seen that the opponent's fighting spirit is definitely a pure thunder attribute fighting spirit monk. The middle-aged man looked at the blood mist in the air, and then at the poor tribesman. He was so angry that he immediately roared angrily at Xian Chen and said, "What kind of bastard are you? Why do you want to kill so many of my clan members? Don't you know that in the upper realm of Tiangong, even the Xin Chen sect needs to give my Xiang family 3 points of noodles? Who are you? You don't even take a pee to take a picture of yourself, and you just yell in front of me? Do you know that people like you usually don't let go of a few clips?" Xian Chen complained unceremoniously, and the burly middle-aged man's face turned black and red in anger. After all, given his status, anyone with a reputation in the entire heavenly palace upper realm was really willing to give him a few favors. Sharing feelings. Now he is being ridiculed by a junior, who is also an enemy of his clan, not to mention how angry this middle-aged man is. Boy, you are really arrogant. If my necklace doesn't kill you today, how can I lead the entire Xiang mansion in the future, and how can I make those Tiangong families look at me? The middle-aged man who called himself the Necklace was furious, and the murderous aura revealed all over his body was extremely strong. In this state of vowing to deal with Xian Chen, the middle-aged man without saying a word, immediately stretched his hands to the sky, and then he saw a wave of the extremely majestic oppression swept towards Xian Chen. Xian Chen frowned, but he didn't panic when he saw this extremely terrifying murderous intent. After all, panic can't solve it. Looking at Xian Chen, his face turned out to be calm. The necklace slowly raised his hand, then waved it down, and a coldness flashed in his eyes. Dare to face himself so unscrupulously, Necklace naturally knows that there is more to the other person than meets the eye. And Xian Chen over there was also extremely vigilant. This necklace was clearly intended to kill him directly, otherwise it would not have caused such a terrifying scene as soon as he appeared on the scene. Seeing the necklace's hands constantly changing, Xian Chen knew that continuing to resist was nothing more than stalling for time. As the necklace's terrifying killing moves continued to gather, the killing intent in Xian Chen's heart boiled instantly. "You are proud to be able to die by my move, boy." The necklace was raised and dropped, and a giant hand fell from the sky in an instant, accompanied by the intense heat mixed with the giant hand. Some disciples who were not weak in cultivation also died tragically. Xian Chen raised his brows, and once again raised too many giant golden cauldrons, and they collided hard against the giant palms that came down. Boom! An extremely terrifying wave of air swept around him in an instant. Both the disciples of the Xiang family and the Xin Chen sect suffered heavy losses from this incident. Looking at the disciples of the same sect who were missing arms and legs, Xian Chen was filled with murderous intent and looked very cold. He immediately raised his finger and pointed it towards the location of the necklace. "Call out." As Xian Chen's finger fell, an extremely terrifying energy beam instantly rushed towards the necklace. In almost an instant, as this infinite light rushed away, the nearby crowd and furnishings were all turned into powder. How is this possible? Necklace looked at the sudden beam of light, his face changed drastically, and he immediately exclaimed subconsciously. It's not that he hasn't experienced this feeling before, but because it can bring such a terrifying impact to him, even if he doesn't know all of it in the upper realm of the heavenly palace, he has at least heard of it. Surprised, the necklace naturally had to resist. He spat out a turtle shell that exuded a terrifying aura, and then expanded rapidly, blocking the necklace in front of him. Boom! Xian Chen's finger light shot onto the turtle shell. The moment the beam of light touched the turtle shell. Then on top of the seemingly extremely hard turtle shell, an extremely eye-catching crack actually began to appear. After seeing this crack start to spread crazily, the entire heart of the necklace seemed to stop in an instant. No, Necklace's face changed wildly. This turtle shell was a magic weapon refined from a 1,000-year-old turtle that he killed during his travels to the most dangerous places in the upper world. The turtle shell that was used to resist the attacks of outsiders, and had helped him save himself from danger time and time again, unexpectedly cracked this time. Naturally, the whole person's heart was beating rapidly. Bang! However, in the next moment, with the turtle shell shaking, the seemingly extremely hard turtle shell, under the direct gaze of the necklace's bloodshot eyes, instantly broke into pieces and scattered around. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 216. Necklace probably never dreamed that his own magic weapon would be so vulnerable to Xian Chen. If it weren't for the fact that he was the head of the Xiang family, how could he choose to fight Xian Chen at this time? After all, for people of their level, it is best not to take action. However, now that he is at war with Xian Chen, not to mention that there are so many clansmen watching at this moment, so even if the necklace is retreating in his heart, he has to break his teeth and swallow it in his stomach at this moment. Looking at the necklace that I had worn not long ago, Xian Chen looked coldly and said in a cold tone, "Didn't you say you wanted to kill me? Do you only have this little ability?" Xian Chen stared at the necklace, his tone was indifferent and solemn. The necklace's expression changed several times, with a look of horror remaining on his face. At this moment, he wanted to refute Xian Chen, but he couldn't, because Xian Chen's power already made him feel that it was beyond imagination. "Boy, how about this? I admit that you are indeed a very good genius. What's more, my Xiang family has always had a good relationship with the Xing Chen section. How about we all give in today?" Necklace's eyes were uncertain, and after a sneer, he seemed ready to shake hands with Xian Chen and make peace. This scene can be said to have shocked everyone present. Lin Fengji completely refreshed his perspective when watching this scene. Who is the necklace? That is now the patriarch of the Xiang family, and he is also a veteran and strong man who has been at the peak of the 9 stars of Dosheng for many years. Now he actually chooses to compromise with a junior. Even if this kind of thing is spread, I am afraid it will definitely shock many people's jaws. Are you begging for mercy? Xian Chen raised a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth, and looked at the necklace with contempt in his eyes. Such an expression of contempt is not acceptable to a person of Necklace's level. After being stunned for a moment, he felt that his face was dull, and then he said seriously to Xian Chen, "Boy, my Necklace is the leader of the clan. No matter what, I'm giving you face because I think highly of you. If it weren't for your background in the Star Sect, do you think I really can't kill you based on my abilities?" The necklace was filled with murderous intent. He really wanted to kill Xian Chen, because only in this way could his shame be completely washed away. However, Xian Chen didn't talk too much nonsense with the other party. To deal with such people, very coercive measures must be used. Otherwise, it is really hard to say who takes the initiative and who takes the back. Xian Chen frowned, and then the scattered swords began to roar in response to Xian Chen's formula. Looking at these extremely terrifying sword energy, Necklace's expression became colder and colder. He raised his palm and turned it over. Then, a pair of wings emitting red light appeared behind him. The emergence of these red wings seems to have the feeling of increasing power. Seeing that the aura of the necklace was much higher than before, Xian Chen's expression also changed drastically. Die! As Xian Chen roared, the swords followed the movements of Xian Chen's fingers and shot out towards the position where the necklace was. Boom! However, at this moment, Necklace was a veteran fighting saint after all. Just as those swords were charging towards him, an extremely huge golden palm appeared in front of Necklace almost instantly. Along with those swords, they hit the golden palm hard. I saw an extremely terrifying invisible wave spreading rapidly towards the surroundings. Almost in an instant, the swords held by Xianchen began to crackle and break apart. Seeing that these heaven-level weapons were so vulnerable, Xianchen knew that this necklace really used its special skills. If he continued to play around, the loser would most likely be him. You should be proud to die by my sword. Xianchen exhaled a breath of turbid air, then waved his arm, and saw a sword emitting a strange light, which was easily grasped in his hand. Necklace looked at the appearance of this sword, and his expression was very violent. As for those fighting saints, all of them were in high spirits. Could this be a magical weapon that only exists in legends? Someone exclaimed, but it didn't mean that he had recognized the name of the sword. However, Xianchen's expression was extremely indifferent. He raised his sword and slashed an extremely huge sword beam towards the Xiang people who were trying to be protected by various eruption barriers. Boom boom boom. Sure enough, as the sword swept across, those Xiang people died miserably under the shadow of the sword almost instantly. Necklace saw that the bodies of those people were blown away on the spot, and those who fell to the ground seemed to start vomiting blood. His expression was also extremely angry. Boy! You bully people too much. Kill so many of my people. My necklace will definitely kill you no matter what. Necklace's expression condensed, then he jumped out and chose to have a head-on battle with Xianchen. Whoosh! As the necklace continued to approach, a huge number of palm gangs were seen, rushing towards Xianchen at great speed. Since you want to die so much, then I have no choice but to help you. Xianchen looked at the necklace that was swooping down and became angry, his eyes already ignited with the desire to fight. Boy! You are too arrogant. The necklace roared. He didn't expect that even at this time, he still didn't forget to humiliate himself. It's not that necklace has never encountered this kind of thing before, but those who have humiliated him have been severely trampled under his feet. This time the necklace must be killed no matter what, otherwise it would not lead to a big fight with Xianchen. That's too much. Today, my necklace will let you know why the flowers are so red. Boom! As the two punched each other, if it was just Xianchen's own strength, he would definitely not be the opponent of the necklace. But don't forget that Xianchen has a system. When the necklace hits his fist, Xianchen's whole body strength will naturally be increased by the system by default. After all, only in this way can Xianchen truly be invincible. Puff! Finally, under this punch, Necklace's entire face changed drastically, and he only felt sour and sweet in his throat. Almost instantly, he spit out a large pool of blood. Seeing this scene, Xianchen hurriedly avoided it, but his body was still splashed with blood. Little boy, you are so cruel. Faced with the unwillingness of the necklace, Xianchen once again took hold of the divine sword. Too lazy to continue wasting energy with him, he immediately threw out a black sword light and struck hard. Almost in an instant, he watched the sky-high resentment sweep towards him. The necklace had no time to react. I saw the soaring sword energy sweeping away, and the eyes of those star sect disciples were also full of fire. After all, this kind of strength may only be used by the super elders in the sect. Lin Fengjie was probably the most shocked person. When he first met Xianchen, he looked down on this boy with only the strength of Dozun from the bottom of his heart. But now, this boy with the strength of Dozun can actually explode such a terrifying force. With the strength, it is naturally deeply scary. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 217. No. The necklace roared before its death. He could not believe in his dreams that he would die tragically at the hands of a junior after having been in the upper world for many years. As for the remaining Xin Chen sect disciples, they were also shocked by the strength displayed by Xianchen. After all, in the eyes of all of them, Xianchen is just a being with the strength of Dozun. Now he is able to kill the fighting saint, and he is still a veteran fighting saint. Even if this kind of thing is spread, it is enough for Xianchen to establish a certain position in the entire upper world. Lin Fengzhi looked at the necklace that was burned into pieces by the fire, but he was extremely scared. After all, in his heart, what kind of terrifying existence he almost provoked in the first place is the real key. Today's Xianchen, even though he is still just a Dozan, his revealed strength has far surpassed that of many Do saints. How many things does this kid hide that we don't know about? Oh my god, is this guy really just a Dozan? How is this possible? Fortunately, we are brothers from the same section, otherwise, we wouldn't be enough for Xianchen to see him. These Xin Chen sect disciples also know that this is a world where the strong are respected, and they, the cultivators, are very happy to respect the strong. But in fact, Xianchen himself probably knows what Suanken's true strength is. For Xianchen, as long as he is willing, he can completely rely on the system to accomplish many things that cannot be accomplished. After all, for Xianchen, with the system, he already belongs to the kind of bug-like existence. The necklace was once a king and the overlord of the party. Now it dies like this. It's really ironic. Some disciples were filled with emotion as they held the battered sword. But he had no idea that there was danger at this moment, approaching at a very fast speed. Xianchen gathered all the swords around him, and with his piercing eyes, he had already noticed a black figure exuding a terrifying aura, approaching very quickly. Please pay attention, the real enemy has just appeared. Xianchen let out a breath of turbid air, and as soon as he finished speaking, he saw many energy-filled light balls exploding toward the area where they were. The explosion produced by these light balls is enough to destroy everything. Lin Fengzhi and others hid behind Xianchen, hoping to get Xianchen's protection. Now Xianchen has gradually become the backbone of everyone. Lin Fengzhi quietly opened the space and said seriously to Xianchen, "If the timing is wrong, we will run away. We can't die here." Yes, Xianchen readily accepted Lin Fengzhi's opinion. Just as he finished speaking, a black shadow flashed in front of him like a ghost. I saw the black shadow punching out very quickly, hitting Xianchen's abdomen with almost lightning speed. Suanken's pupils dilated, and the power of this fist made him so painful that he could not speak. Lin Fengzhi watched the scene and immediately erupted into a powerful force. He gripped the three-pointed double-edged knife and slashed hard at the black shadow. At the moment when the black shadow stepped out of the way, Lin Fengzhi decisively grabbed Xianchen's arm and rushed into the space crack. As for those Star Sect disciples, those who reacted successfully escaped. Those who didn't react would naturally die suddenly on the spot. After passing through the space rift, Lin Fengzhi, gasping for air, decisively closed the space rift. A Star Sect disciple who was about to run out let out an extremely miserable wail when he saw the space rift that was about to close. Some of the disciples who managed to run out looked at this scene, but they were so frightened that they sat on the ground. The disciples guarding the mountain gate were also shocked when they saw the returning brothers, and they all stepped forward to check the injuries of the injured disciples. Looking at these scarred disciples, the expressions of the gatekeeper disciples were constantly changing. "Xianchen, how do you feel now?" Lin Fengzhi looked at the dying Xianchen with a nervous look on his face. If a person like Xianchen grows up, his future will definitely be bright. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible for him, Lin Fengzhi, to watch anything happen to Xianchen. Otherwise, even if he has been a disciple of the Xin Chen sect for many years, what he will receive will definitely be a very cruel punishment. Xianchen was dying, but he witnessed with his own eyes the black shadow raised his hand and gave Xianchen a hard slap on the chest. According to an attack of that level, Xianchen, even if he is immortal, will definitely suffer unbelievable damage to his ribs and even his internal organs. I don't know how long it took, but when the doctors and nurses who heard the sound arrived, some disciples who had lost too much blood died suddenly on the spot. As for Xianchen, he naturally passed out completely. What's wrong with him? A woman with a good appearance and a good figure looked at the unconscious Xian Chen with a worried look on her face. Lin Fengzhi's expression was ugly, and he told Fairy Yaokai all the causes and consequences. Fairy Yaokai was frightened after hearing this. After all, this kind of behavior was really too impulsive. When Xian Chen was sent to rescue, the senior officials were shocked when they heard this. After all, it is incredible that a guy with only the strength of Dozun can kill so many Dozun. Must be rescued. According to what Lin Fengzhi said, the last person who appeared is most likely the ancestor of the Xiang family who has been hiding for a long time. The old Jianghu is probably hundreds of years old. How do you think of being so cruel to a junior? If Xian Chen doesn't die, the ancestor of the Xiang family will definitely pay the price. That's not it. Since Xian Chen has killed so many people in the Xiang family, why don't we send a few elders to negotiate with the ancestors of the Xiang family? These people all have their own ideas. Although the strength shown by Xian Chen is indeed terrifying, it is not enough for them to cause trouble for the ancestor of the Xiang family. After all, for these elders, instead of killing some disciples, they must not continue to fight against the ancestors of the Xiang family. Otherwise, the consequences will be extremely unimaginable. Now is not the time to discuss this. The most important thing is that Xian Chen is at least thinking about our Xin Chen section. I think we should save him. If it doesn't work, let's talk about it later. This is the only plan for now. Alas, it's a pity for such a good seedling. These controversial elders all had their own inner thoughts. Xian Chen was lying on the hospital bed, silently accepting the rescue. But rather than rescue, it is better to say that it is treatment with some kind of magic weapon that can treat internal injuries. Under the treatment of these magic weapons, although the effect of the magic weapons is very powerful, some people found that these magic weapons seemed to be deliberately rejected by something in Xian Chen's body, resulting in the therapeutic effect of the magic weapons having no effect at all. It's strange that such a good healing magic weapon has no effect at all. What is lurking in this kid's body? This may have something to do with the fact that he was able to kill so many fighting saints. Maybe there is some kind of extremely terrifying monster hidden in his body, or it may be restricted by some transcendent force. These medical staff were talking a lot. Although they thought so, the magic weapon for treatment was still not taken away. After all, for them, even if it has no effect at all, it is still much better than taking away the healing magic weapon. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 218. Unless a miracle happens, this kid will definitely die. It's hard to say, miracles can only be deceived by those children. We have been practicing medicine for so many years, why should we deceive ourselves? These doctors have everything to say and have no intention of hiding anything. Xian Chen was able to come back safely under such circumstances, which was considered a great virtue from his ancestors. Lin Fengzhi and others were waiting silently outside the medical room, and some participating disciples were also sent for treatment. If Lin Fengzhi was not seriously injured, he would have been waiting silently at the door after a simple bandage. He and Xian Chen have no blood relationship, but Xian Chen saved his life, and now that he has saved Xian Chen, the relationship between the two has gradually become equal. As for Fairy Yaokai, she was waiting at the door early. When she heard that Xian Chen wanted to take revenge on the Xiang family, she was very angry, but now looking at Xian Chen who was dying, the words she wanted to curse were swallowed back into her stomach. Looking at the anxious Yaokai fairy, Lin Fengzhi walked quickly to her side, frowned and said, "Junior sister, I believe that with Suankin's ability, he will not die so easily. I also believe that he will not die so easily, but currently all the elders responsible for the treatment have no solution. This is the most important thing." Fairy Yaokai was very worried that Xian Chen would really have an accident. For Fairy Yaokai, Xian Chen is already a part of her life. If Xian Chen really leaves her at this time, then it is very likely that she will never love again in this life. Those doctors who have been standing in the medical room but are helpless are extremely anxious at this moment. A person who can kill so many fighting saints by himself can definitely be called a legendary existence. Time passed little by little, and during the period of time when Xian Chen was in coma, it could be said that the top officials of Xian Chen sect came one after another. But they only paid lip service to the request for all-out rescue, and did not do anything else. In fact, everyone knew that Xian Chen would definitely not be able to be rescued in this situation. As for miracles, they are just deceiving children. However, it is worth mentioning that late one night, on the day when he was about to receive a death notice, Xian Chen's body suddenly emitted several rays of light. These rays of light were so dazzling that even this piece of heaven and earth was changed by the light emitted by Xian Chen. Such a vision from the sky attracted the attention of many people, and some people who were preparing to deal with Xian Chen's body were also stunned at the door. They only saw Xian Chen, who was supposed to be lying down, but he was sitting quietly cross-legged with a calm expression on his face. Seeing this as if a god had descended into the world, some doctors and nurses couldn't help but kneel down and worship. Boom! Finally, there was a sound of thunder, and Xian Chen woke up from his coma. His eyes looked towards the eaves, as if there were two golden lights reaching into the sky. This scene attracted the attention of many people. Even the ancestor of the Xiang family who wanted to kill Xian Chen was frowning at this moment. The woman in red sitting in the main hall suddenly opened her eyes, and this person was none other than Fairy Yaokai's master and Suankin's chief master, Venerable Yusun. At this moment, Venerable Yusun frowned, as if he had many doubts in his heart. He walked to the door and looked at the place where the strange vision was emitting. He also noticed that those responsible for guarding the palace door were also paying attention there, and then he frowned and said, "It seems that a miracle really happened to that boy. This time, the ancestor of the Xiang family, I'm afraid it's doomed, so if you take this thing to the medical clinic, just say it was taught by me, Yusun." Venerable Yusun raised his hand and handed an extremely sharp sword to a maid. Although this maid is just a guard, her cultivation is that of an extremely powerful dozon. The waitress received the sword and hurried towards the medical center. Not long after, when the female guard arrived at the hospital, she was really shocked by the people present at the place. The master of the palace, Ao Bing, has the strength to fight against the emperor. The deputy palace master, Obai, has the strength to fight against the emperor. What's more, there are many guardians and elders, and their strength is at the 9 stars of Dosheng and the peak. Such a huge team was actually gathered together at this moment. How is this possible? Didn't this kid say he is just a dozon? How is it possible that his strength is rising steadily? The deputy hall master, Obai, was very puzzled. He was extremely confused when he looked at Xian Chen, whose cultivation had reached the 6th level of Dosheng and was still improving. Boom! Suddenly, a golden light appeared above Xian Chen's head, and finally disappeared with a wail accompanied by a dragon's shadow. At this moment, Xian Chen also raised his head and let out a furious sound, like thunder exploding. At the same time, Xian Chen's whole body shone like a golden sun, exuding endless pressure. Suddenly, another breakthrough. Deputy Palace Master Obai was dumbfounded when he saw the scene and couldn't believe it. Who is this kid? This method of breakthrough is completely unprecedented. A blessing in disguise, a blessing in disguise. All these people look surprised. After all, this situation has only advantages and no disadvantages for them. In the room, as Xian Chen slowly opened his eyes, with a calm expression, he took a deep breath, and then a strange light suddenly emitted from his body. Ha ha ha! I was still wondering who could radiate such brilliance. It turns out it's you who is such a bratty person. The moment Xian Chen opened his eyes, a black shadow suddenly appeared with murderous intent. But he suddenly rushed towards where Xian Chen was, roaring out with terrifying speed almost instantly, turning into a rain of light, trying to annihilate Xian Chen and kill him on the spot. But how could those powerful men of the Star Sect watch helplessly as this guy killed Xian Chen? The deputy palace master, Obai, just raised his feet and jumped up, or casually raised his right hand and threw it out with a slap. Bang! The two palms clapped together, and extremely terrifying energy spread rapidly to the surroundings. Puff! However, at this moment, the Xiang family ancestor who was planning to kill Xian Chen in mid-air spurted out a mouthful of blood. He flew out diagonally and landed directly on the ground. He only felt that his whole body was covered with blood. He was so numb that he couldn't even exert any strength. How is this possible? Your Star Sect actually has a strong emperor fighter. The ancestor of the Xiang family had incredible doubts about his life. In his memory, sects like the Star Sect did exist, but the emergence of such a strong man puzzled him very much. However, how could Obai give the opponent a chance to breathe? He immediately clenched his fist again and punched the Xiang family ancestor's abdomen one after another. In a state of continuous attack, the ancestor of the Xiang family finally heard a sudden scream from Obai, his expression extremely ferocious. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 219. Boom boom boom. Under the fury of successive attacks, the ancestor of the Xiang family had to bow his head and admit his mistake at this moment, even if he had lived for hundreds of years. The terrifying attack from Obai hit the ancestor of the Xiang family so hard that he couldn't even lift his head. It was enough to see that there was still a long distance between the ancestor of the Xiang family and elder Obai of the Star Sect. The ancestors of the Xiang family were hit hard one after another, and they couldn't help but feel angry when they thought of their dead juniors. Angry and angry, he finally chose to fight to the death and immediately ignited his own soul. In this extremely terrifying soul-burning state, the ancestor of the Xiang family's cultivation unexpectedly improved by leaps and bounds, and finally stayed firmly at the Do Emperor stage. An attack of this level is very powerful. Even if it is only for a short period of time, the damage that can be unleashed cannot be easily resisted. What's more, the ancestor of the Xiang family has a death-defying attitude, so naturally not everyone can easily resist the offensive launched. Those elders, even those who were in the fighting saint stage, had a tacit understanding at this moment and erupted into an extremely huge barrier. Under this barrier, it really withstood the terrifying attack from the ancestor of the Xiang family. Naturally, it is impossible for Obai to watch the ancestor of the Xiang family blaspheme the Star Sect so casually. Obai is a real fighting emperor without any adulteration. He just raised his palm to hit the domineering palm, as if he could easily resist it. The attack came from the ancestor of the Xiang family. In this kind of battle between levels, everyone's eyes are silently paying attention. I didn't expect that old guy to survive for so long under Obai's hands. It seems that the Xiang family really has that super secret method that can ignite the soul and increase combat effectiveness. Yes, although this secret method of the Xiang family is a sorcery, it can save lives at critical moments. However, if you use this method, even if you can really escape, the ancestor of the Xiang family will definitely become a useless person. Haha. This guy probably never dreamed that our Xian Chen Sec's Hall Master and Deputy Hall Master would care so much about Xian Chen. Xian Chen is really lucky to be able to get the protection of the Palace Master and the others. These people from the Xian Chen sect were talking to each other, as if they were very jealous because someone at the level of the Palace Master had taken action, but there was nothing they could do about it. Xian Chen silently paid attention to this level of battle. Now, because he almost died, the system forcibly promoted him to the level of quasi-emperor. Even though this method of cultivation is extremely puzzling, to Xian Chen, he is a bug-like existence, so naturally he doesn't have too many thoughts. Venerable Yuxuan, how long do you think the ancestor of this family can last? An elder noticed Venerable Yuxuan, and his eyes were full of ambiguity when he looked at him. Although Venerable Yusun is the master of fairy yokai, his young and beautiful appearance has many suitors in the star sect. As for the hall master Ao Bing, he is the cousin of Venerable Yusun, so the status of Venerable Yusun in the star sect can be imagined. As the saying goes, Ao Bing could come because of his relationship with Venerable Yusun, so he came to care for a mere inner disciple. The soul of the ancestor of the Xiang family burned very quickly. Even though he was now the Do Emperor, his cultivation level began to decline rapidly after a short time. Oh boy saw that he couldn't let go of this opportunity. When he saw the Xiang family ancestor unleashing his last attack, he suddenly gave way and then quickly chased in the direction where the Xiang family ancestor escaped. Go away. What the ancestor of the Xiang family didn't expect was that Obai would not choose to let him go, and immediately yelled and cursed, but Obai didn't give in at all. Let me do it, Xian Chen suddenly shouted and rose into the sky from the house. He immediately held a sharp sword and swung an extremely sharp sword energy in the direction where the ancestor of the Xiang family fled. The speed of the sword energy was extremely fast, and an extremely domineering sword shadow rose into the sky, almost as if it could cut through the sky, and chased after the Xiang family ancestor. The ancestor of the Xiang family was completely panicked. He was obviously a waste that he could control at will, but now he was able to burst out with such terrifying sword energy. Naturally, he felt speechless and fearful. However, this kind of resistance was bound to be in vain. As the domineering sword energy charged behind him, the ancestor of this family was immediately pierced through the entire body by the sharp sword shadow from behind. The ancestor of the Xiang family stretched his body completely and looked at the appearance of his chest being pierced, while Obai also looked back in confusion. Looking at the young man standing proudly in the air, he couldn't understand what kind of magic weapon this kind of person relied on to be so perverted. Even the elders were extremely shocked at this moment. The guy who was still half dead at the beginning not only appeared in his sight in full force, but even the aura that exploded was very weird. Oh my god, is this a quasi-emperor? How is this possible? Finally, an elder found a clue from Xian Chen, and everyone's eyes changed from shock to fear. After all, this kind of people cannot be provoked at will even in the future, otherwise, if something happens again that they cannot accept, it will be really shocking. This guy, Venerable Yuxun, also looked at Xian Chen speechlessly. It was only now that she realized why Yaokai would rather be punished by herself than let Xian Chen become his disciple. Haha, congratulations Yusun, I didn't expect you to pick up a treasure, Ao Bing said happily. He and Venerable Yusun were related and were childhood sweethearts. Now he sees Venerable Yusun being able to accept. I was sincerely pleased to see such a disciple with such incredible talent. Venerable Yusun did not speak, but watched quietly with a smile. With the death of the ancestor of the Xiang family, the hearts of those Xiang Chen sect elders were truly mixed. What kind of cultivation does this kid rely on? If he can be allowed to hand over the magic weapon he cultivated, wouldn't our star sect be invincible in the entire upper world in the future? Well, if we can hand it over, then our star sect can be said to have several fighting emperors. Wow, such a terrifying lineup. You all should wake up. That's the kid's own magic weapon. If you dare to attack his mind, you must consider in advance where you will be buried in the future. Otherwise, it will be hard to say one day in the future. Is this really possible? Oh boy listened to the discussions of the elders and murmured to himself. After all, the influence of Xian Chen was too terrifying. If Xian Chen can really be made to hand over that magic weapon, the entire star sect will naturally develop in a good direction and become stronger and stronger. The Strongest Husband of Dopo. Author, Hui Bai Xiong. Chapter 220. Xian Chen, come with me. After hearing the opinions of those people, Aobai finally chose to ask Xianchen for that extremely weird cultivation magic weapon. If we can really get that kind of cultivation magic weapon from Xianchen, then it will naturally be good for sect forces like them. However, Xianchen looked indifferent and had no intention of paying attention to Obai's invitation. Not only the elders saw this, but even the sect leader Ao Bing was frowning at the moment. For Ao Bing, he would not choose to ask for anything from the disciples in the sect. After all, that kind of behavior is a kind of humiliation for a person of his sect master level. Xianchen, what do you mean by ignoring the deputy hall master? Have you forgotten that your life was given by our Xin Chen sect? There are elders who are dissatisfied with Suanken's behavior, and the strength revealed by Xianchen now has completely affected them. Therefore, to these elders, Xianchen can be said to be the public enemy of the whole people. Fairy Yaokai wanted to say something, but was stopped by Venerable Yuxun's look, as if even Venerable Yuxun was extremely interested in this kind of thing. When Obai saw Xianchen, he had no intention of giving him face. After a moment of silence, he frowned and said, "Since you are unwilling to go with me, then naturally this palace will not impose any help on you. But I still have to tell you something unpleasant, your behavior is destined to not have good results." When he didn't get a response from Xianchen, Obai became furious. For him, it was absolutely impossible for a disobedient disciple to stay in Xin Chen sect, and Xianchen's behavior had undoubtedly touched his heart. Bottom line. Boy, are you really planning not to follow me? You know, just like those elders said just now, if you don't follow me, you are undoubtedly causing trouble for yourself. Obai continued to ask Xianchen where he still looked like he loved the people like his son. Xianchen ignored the other party and was silent for a moment. He noticed the look from Venerable Yuxun. He hesitated for a moment and then taunted Obai, "You don't have to be aggressive here. I, Xianchen, never like to be threatened by others. If I feel like I can't stay in Xin Chen sect, so you can let me leave." You. Boy, being articulate won't get you anywhere. Obai took a deep breath. He couldn't believe that when things got to this point, Xianchen chose not to repay his kindness but to resist. As for the hall master of the star sect, Ao Bing, he raised a proud smile and smiled lightly at Xianchen. "The star sect may not be anything in your eyes, but in the eyes of people in the upper world, it is extremely sacred. The place." But what Obai said is not in line with the majesty of a deputy palace master. How about this? Since you are the disciple of Venerable Yuxun, then you will follow her honestly from now on. Look at my arrangement. How? As the Do Emperor, Obai didn't have the posture of a palace master at this moment. Perhaps for Obai, a person like Xianchen was special enough. If he continued to make things too difficult, he would undoubtedly be looking for trouble for himself. After all, a person who can continuously upgrade, let alone how powerful the magic weapon he possesses, is no longer something that the star sect can manipulate at will. Since the master of the palace is so generous, then I, Yusun, will express my gratitude for this apprentice. Venerable Yusun stood up, and this was the step she was waiting for. The relationship between her and Obai is not good, this is a fact that the entire Xin Chen sect knows. But now that the head of the family has spoken out, she, the Venerable Yusun, will naturally not continue to sit idly by. When Yaokai on the side saw his master speaking, he immediately ran to Xianchen, looked at the opponent's rapid improvement in cultivation, pinched Suanken's waist hard, and then said with a look of complaint, "The Xiang family is old school. Power, how can you act on your own initiative? If you continue to do this in the future, don't blame me, Yusun, for ignoring you in the future." Faced with Yao Qixian's complaints, Xianchen held his hand and, under everyone's gaze, suddenly moved with his sword and quickly flew towards a mountain top shrouded in clouds and mist. "Palace Master. You see, this boy clearly doesn't take us seriously. Are you just planning to let him leave?" Obai couldn't believe Ao Bing's choice. After all, to Obai, no matter how high or powerful Xian Chen's talents were, these talents were extremely unimportant in the face of the interests of the entire star sect. What's more, Obai is still the deputy hall master, but now he is being harassed by a disciple and can't step down. Naturally, he is very angry. Shut up, oh boy, have you forgotten what I just said? That Xian Chen is Yu Sun's disciple. Don't forget that Yu Sun's identity is more special than you and me. Ao Bing's relationship with Obai was obviously not as good as expected, otherwise, he wouldn't have faced off against Obai at this time. Angry and angry, Obai blasted out a blast of wind from his palm, blowing the rockery in the courtyard to pieces before leaving impatiently. Cousin, this Ao Bai. Venerable Yu Sun obviously had something to say, but Ao Bing, the master of the palace, waved his hand to signal her not to say any more. Xian Chen left the medical room with Yao Kai in his arms and a warm smile on his face. Going against Obai is the most irrational behavior. You shouldn't do that. Yao Kai said softly. Although he said he hated Xian Chen, he still thought about him in his heart. Don't worry. If Obai really wanted to take action against me, he would have already taken action against me. I believe that the reason why he is so angry is because I have not respected him. Xian Chen finally got to the point. He had no grudge against Ao Bai. If he got angry over just a magic weapon that was suitable for cultivation, it would be impossible for him to become Ao Bing's right-hand man. After all, for people at Obai's level, what they care about is no longer power, but more about face. Haha, I hope what you said is reasonable, but I still have to remind you that that guy is not as simple as you think. He fought with the master for 3 days and 3 nights because of a sword. If it weren't for the fact that the palace master is so honest, I can't stand it anymore. I'm afraid that guy has been defeated by master a long time ago. At this moment, Fairy Yao Kai still has the aloofness she had when they first met, and she really agrees with what she said. Girls will really become stupid when they meet the right boy and fall in love. I believe that with her strength, she will definitely become a Do Emperor in the future bottleneck, but as to why there has been no breakthrough, I am afraid that only Venerable Yu Sun himself knows this kind of thing. What are you going to do next? The Xiang family has been destroyed by you, and now you have offended the deputy palace master. Although it seems that the master is supporting you, if you don't become stronger, you will be hurt. It's destined to be only you. Yao Kai gently advised Xian Chen to go out and practice. Maybe when Xian Chen can really make everyone surrender with his own strength, by that time, Xian Chen will truly achieve the state of self-respect. Facing Yao Kai's admonition, Xian Chen remained silent, thinking about life. He began to recall the experiences that had happened over the years.